Hey guys, it's Will from EDM Tips. Today I'm going to show you how to make trance music in the style of Anjunabeats and Alpha 9 and Arty. This is what we're going to do today. Yes! Bring it in. We will be covering the kick, the bass, we will be covering making the plucks, the chords, the melody, everything you need to know to create what you just heard. This is kind of in preparation because I've spoken to the label managers and the A&R head at Anjunabeats, and I will be interviewing them on this channel very soon. So if you want to know how to get signed to your favorite labels in the world, such as Anjunabeats, make sure to subscribe to this channel to make sure that you never miss a video. Okay, let's get to it. Let's get straight to it. First thing I'm going to do is select a tempo, 128. Now, if this is in the style of Alpha 9, what I'm going to do is call this beta or beta 10. Easy, not too silly, let's get cracking. First thing we're going to do is create some chords, then we're going to base everything else around that. So let's call these chords. Now I'm using Ableton Ableton Live 11, but you can follow along in any DAW, and you can download this project file, all the samples completely free below as well. So for the chords, or boards as I like to spell them, let's choose a scale. I'm going to choose the scale of G minor, and it's super easy in Ableton 11. You can just do this here, or you can use my template technique if you don't have Ableton 11, which is basically drawing all the white notes from A up till A. Then press fold, that's the scale of A minor natural. If you want a different scale, you just select all of your notes and then you put them down or up so that the lowest note is on whichever key you want to start on. Then you've got that key in a minor as well. So let's press this scale button, and now only those notes are showing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color the chords cyan, and this is the natural color of synths. So let's do that. And we'll start with working out the bass notes first, and then we'll build those chords from that. And I'm just going to use the stock plugins with an Ableton as well for this. So the first thing we need to think about is the vibe. Now, if you're creating uplifting trance like this, you've got to think about what it would be like to be in the audience if you're in a club or you're at a festival. You want to have your hands in the air, you know, on the breaks, you want to be reaching for those lasers, baby. And then on the drop, you want to be absolutely having it. So bear that in mind. Always got to be thinking about the end product. So let's get these really emotive chords that just are heart melters. And I'm just going to use these templates. And we'll put on the metronome. And I think I'll base this on his track Stella. That's Alpha 9's track. It won't be exactly the same, but roughly on this. Okay, so that's our bass notes. Really easy because we use this template. Simple. So let's build out chords from that now. And all you have to do is skip a note each time. And that's going to make some really nice chords. That's super simple if you don't know much music theory. And now we've created a seventh chord. So we've got the first, the third, the fifth, and then the seventh interval above the root note, which is the E flat. Nice. Now, it doesn't work on this one because that's some kind of bad sounding note. So we'll just put that up to the F, and it's got more continuity as well. Nice. So let's create a lovely big saw synth sound. Full sustain. Some unison to make it richer and thicker. Like a very stupid rich person, richer and thicker. So that's going to be our main chord progression that we're going to be working off. Super simple, super quick. Right, now for the melody, which is really important in Arty or Alpha 9's music, is we're going to write it. And I'm going to show you some hacks on how you can do that. So we're just using the same template. But what we're going to do is just put a note on every G, because this is G minor, on every 16th. So it's just going to be doing this. Let's turn off the chords for a minute. So that's all we're doing. And we're going to copy and paste that. So that's her melody, right? Super simple, super silly. It's just one note, 16ths. But now the beauty is, if you've got your template selected for the scale you're working in, you can start moving these notes up and down. And just move them up and down until you find some that sound good and move you. It's really important that, you know, it sounds good. But we're going to have to choose a slightly different sound because it sounds too similar to that melody, to the chord, sorry. So what we're going to do is just put it up an octave, actually. That will help for a start. In fact, let's take the filter down on the chords. Okay, I don't like that note. That's better. See, so this note would actually be allowed, as it were, but it doesn't sound as good. And it's very simple, just using 2 notes each time. But following the same pattern, so it's down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, and then a little run. Then the same again, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. I'm just doing this off the fly. I quite like that. Now let's start shaping this sound. Let's make it a pluck. So the way to do that is we choose envelope 2 here in the different mod sources. Go to the matrix, select filter and assign that to envelope 2. So if we take the filter down, we can see now this envelope is controlling this filter to make it a pluck sound. Let's make this nice and thick to unison. That's quite nice. Okay, now the next thing we are going to do is create the pluck chords as well. So this is going to be a combination of this pad and these plucks. Let's just call this melody. And it's all about layering when it comes to trance. You know, you want a simple melody, simple chords, but it's all about the layers and how you use them. Okay, it's really hot in this ridiculous Christmas jumper. So let's just duplicate these chords again. Let's call them plucks. That pluck. And what we're going to do to make things a bit interesting is just grab these chords and then again repeat them on the 16ths, like so. Whoops. You know, it's just 3 chords. That's all you need for the entire track. Now let's make this into a pluck. Similar way that we did it before. Assign the filter to envelope 2. Tweak the envelope shape slightly. That's the amplitude. Now the filter envelope. Nice. Now what we're going to do is add some delay to that. So I'm going to create an auxiliary channel here. I'm going to just call this pluck delay. And now I'm going to put a reverb, no, an echo on there. And let's just keep it all color coordinated. Is that color coordinated? Not quite, there we go. Let's just tweak the timing of the delay and now feed some of the plucks into it. Bit dead mousy. Add some reverb. Choose ping pong. Let's tweak this pluck slightly. Nice. Now I've got a room reverb, which is just a short reverb, and I'm going to use that to tie everything together in the mix. But for the hall reverb, I've just got a longer reverb on a secondary auxiliary channel, and I'm going to feed some of the main melody into that. And we're going to start layering it up. Nice. Okay, melody, let's create a melody layer 2. And for this, all I'm going to do is create a slightly different shape and choose different waveforms from the oscillators within the wavetable. So that's the original one. Take it down a octave. So now, when we've got these two melodies layered together, it's much more interesting and a richer sound. So this is the first on its own. And now let's bring the second one in. Take out some of that low end with an EQ. And now let's get the main melody for when the drop hits. So this is going to be our drop melody. And again, I'm going to use the same synth. But what I'm going to do is now grab everything like so. And then I'm going to press this legato button. And that's going to tie all of the notes as far up to the next one as it can. And the reason I'm going to do this is because this is going to be a really sustained melody for the drop, because we want it to be really driving at that point. So let's turn off all this plucking stuff. This plucking stuff. Turn off the reverb. Let's create it. Make sure it's mono, because we want this to not be overlapping the next note. We want to be able to hear them slightly, so we'll give it a bit of a amplitude pluck. But we will be layering this with our other melodies. So then we are actually going to hear the pluck, because these pluckier melodies are going to be layered over the top of this sustained melody. But let's play with the shapes a bit. You know, and some of it is just playing to see what the different waveforms sound like. Like, that's quite cool. There's a bit of bass in there. Yeah, I quite like that. So this is going to be our melody when it's all together. But let's add a bit more texture to that main drop lead. What we're going to do is choose some saturation. I like the amp in Ableton. Make sure it's set to dual so we can hear the stereo image. So we can hear the difference it's made. This is before the amp. And now we've got... So it's a lot more hardcore, it's a lot more driving. So now at this point, we're going to start building the drop. We've got our main chords, we've got our main melodies. It's all about the layering from here on out. So with the chords, we are actually going to choose a different sound, and we are going to create like a lush pad that can sit in the background of the rest of the mix. And then it's a matter of balancing those together like so. So what we're going to do is get, we will stick with the wavetable. We'll just look at some of the presets. This one will do. So let's have a listen now. This is our pad. Nice. Add some hall reverb. See, it doesn't take much, you know, to start getting that sound. But with this pluck, I want to drive it a bit more. So for this frequency here, for this filter, I'm going to go from clean and I'm going to choose one of these other ones so I can add some drive. Okay, nice. Let's take it down in volume a tiny bit. And now we're going to add the bass. And the bass, again, is super easy, but I'm going to show you how we're going to use it differently in the break from the drop. So let's call this bass. And all we're going to do is grab the lowest notes from our chord plucks. And this is super simple. And not only that, we are actually going to grab the preset, the synth itself as well. Let's just put it down an octave because it's going to be the bass. And where did we take it from? We took it from the chords, I think, didn't? No, from the pluck. So let's grab this wavetable, stick it on the bass, and this is going to be our bass sound. But we want to tweak it a little bit now because we don't want it to be exactly the same as the pluck. So let's just get it how we want it to sound. Mono. Because we've already done that nice work with making it sound quite analog and rich. So there's no point redoing it. I'm just duplicating it and then tweaking the device. I think we'll leave the bass on this octave because we can just duplicate it and then we're going to have our sub bass and this is going to be separate. And the reason for that is then we can have extra control over the relative levels really easily. And we can have this nice and mono by turning off the unison. So this is our sub bass. And we can drop it down an octave. Maybe try a sine wave so it's nice and clean. Let's EQ out that horrible tick in the high end. So it's a really nice, warm, rich bass now. So together, when you EQ out the high end of the main bass, the low end, sorry, so they can sit together without clashing. So that's the total bass. Okay, so let's group those together. Call it bass, unsurprisingly. Let's color that orange. And now this is our bass line. And we can adjust the balance of sub bass to mid bass really easily. Okay, so now we've got the main constituent parts. Let's start building it. I mean, this doesn't look like much and we've barely done any work, hasn't taken much time at all. But we're going to use this as the break. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate it a few times. And then let's start working on the drop, which will be here. So let's get rid of that MIDI track for the kicks and find a nice meaty kick. I'm going to go to my favorites for this. And remember, you can download this file. I know I'm a bit more subdued today, but don't forget, let me know if you're enjoying this so far. Give me a hell yeah or an amen, brother. And make sure that you download this project file if you want to use it. Okay, now we're going to go to Will's favorites and drum hits and kicks. This is a nice meaty kick. Let's just put it on every other beat, or every beat, sorry. And what I'm going to do is turn the volume of it down and mix everything up to where this kick is, because again, it's really easy, especially with something like trance, to overcook everything and make it too loud, and then you end up with clipping, and you don't want that. So I might even take that kick to -14 just to be super scary, super quiet. And if you need to turn your monitoring up, just turn your monitoring up. You know, you don't need to push all of your channels. Mix more quietly. Cool. Now let's get the bass into that. Need more low end. Okay, but we need to make it duck and really pump now for that big Anjunabeats sound. So let's go to compressor. Just put a normal compressor on the entire bass bus. Open it up, call it pump comp. And I'm going to take the sidechain input by clicking this button here from this sidechain channel, which I've created up here. And all that is just a little short, sharp tick that you never hear, because if we open up the routing, I've got it set to sends only, not master. And we are only going to be using that to trigger the sidechain pump. And I prefer to do it from a little tick rather than the kick, because if you look, the kick sample is really long. So you don't have much control over the length of the pumping effect. Whereas here, now we can make it as short or as long as we like, just using that attack and release on the sidechain compressor. Nice. And now we can just copy and paste that on the other elements we want as well. So we could put it on the pluck. But we can see here, I've got a little bit of red here. That means it's clipping. So what I'm going to do is just take down the volume, gain staging. And you can watch the video on gain staging that I've just linked to as well. Right, okay. Like, this hasn't taken long at all. Let's see where we are at the moment. Let's warm this bass up a bit though, the mid bass, add a bit of saturation. I'm going to use this. Now let's add the pluck. And now the melody, the main melody. So that needs some reverb because it sounds way too thin, way too, thin in the mix. So let's add some hall reverb. But the hall reverb sounds a bit funny. So what I'm going to do is actually duck that as well. So even the reverb's pumping. So let's solo that hall reverb, turn off this pump compressor, and this is what it's sounding like at the moment. But with the pump compressor, that's pumping as well. And in fact, for the melody, let's group them together. So this is all of our different melodies. We've got our 3 layers, we've grouped them together. Lovely. Let's just put this pump compressor on the end, or rather on the group itself, just to keep things simpler. And now let's bring in these other layers. Just experimenting with which octave sounds better. I like that really high up. Cool, okay, now we are going to work these chords in as well. And again, we're going to put a pump compressor on there. But we need to EQ out some of the frequencies because we don't want it clashing with our main sounds. Now I think I might just try and mix this from scratch again, with the most important elements first in the mix. So the kick and the bass first. Let's bring the pluck in. Test in mono. Reverb. Yes. Melody. This will be the drop, so we need it to be absolutely banging. Let's bring in these chords. That's with the chords off, the pad rather. Okay, so that's pretty much the drop. And I don't know how long I've spent on it, but it's not very long. But we need more high-end energy now. So let's bring in some beats. Merry Beatmas. Dreams, what are you doing, Will? I don't know where your mind is today, son, but get it in the game. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use a drum loop for this. Just a top loop. And, you know, when you're at this stage and you've got everything that you really want and that's really important, you can then afford to preview lots of different, say, drum loops or anything that's less important than the main elements and just find the one that's going to work best with the tune. So in this instance, I would do something like this and just preview some. Tweak the preview volume. Nah. No. That's pretty cool. No. That's quite cool. It might not be perfect, but it'll do for now. And let's just bring the volume down when it's in the mix. You know, so it pays to have a good selection of loops or top loops, and then you can spend the time previewing them. But this is not ideal, but what I'm going to do is just use it because time's running out. So let's just put an EQ on there and try and compress it to make it a bit more glued together. I mean, it's already quite compressed. Take out some of the low end that's not needed. Now I will use a plugin that's not included with Ableton actually, but it is free and I'll link to it below. I'm going to use this Ozone Imager to make it wider. Test in mono with my mono switch. And I'm going to add a little bit of that room reverb that I mentioned right at the beginning of this tutorial. So it's a very short reverb with a short decay time, and it's just to gel sounds together. It works especially well with drums, So if we listen to the drums on their own, if we add a little bit of room reverb, this is off. It's just a bit dry, and this is with the room reverb on. This is off. Bit dry. The rest of the mix has got loads of reverb, so we need the drums to sound like they're in a similar space. Okay, that's going to do for the drums for now. Now we need some high-end energy. You know, on that drop, you need it really giving it some on the high end. So what I'm going to do is find some kind of crash sound. And again, just looping it and then previewing them in place is the best way to find a sound that has the right texture, the right transient energy. That one's quite cool. Let's turn down the preview volume. Let's start with this one. And again, you know, it could be a matter of layering lots of sounds together. Really low in the mix. So I like the high end on that. It's like nice and tinny. But I think we need some more interest in the kind of mid range as well. So let's look at some other effects. Those are a bit too low. These are all too low end energy, really. That sounds pretty cool. So we might just layer up these two effect drops here. Let's take out some of the transient energy so we don't have a build up. And then, you know, we could run into issues with clipping there. So let's just bring this very low in the mix. And you can hear, we've just got more frequencies filled up there now for the drop. Cool, and the last thing I want to do on the drop is I might even put a cymbal that just repeats, just to give it, because I'm lacking that high-end energy I want. So what I'll do is I'll just use this one actually. I won't create a new one, because that's got the energy I want. And you don't want to overdo things. So let's just make this. On every single kick. And this is just going to give it a real fist-pumping moment. And I might add a little bit of sidechain pump to that as well. So it's ducked by the kick. Just a little bit there. I'd have to mix this again because I'm just doing this on the fly, but let's put a hi-hat in there as well. Like an open hat. Oh, now I'm getting into it, see? I start with low energy and then I get excited. Let's go into the EDM Tips Creative Toolkit for this, and we will go to cymbals, hi-hats. Probably about right. Nice. Okay, so imagine that's our break. Sorry, our drop. Let's work on the break that leads up to that, because it's going to be all about that break. Otherwise, the drop's not going to have any energy. So for the melody, for instance, first let's get rid of all the sidechain bounce. So we'll take away our sidechain track up here. So none of the sidechain compressors are now pumping. But we need to get rid of the sub bass. So like we're already, this is the vibe we're wanting, you know, and we can now automate these things. So let's take the plucks down a bit, and they can build up before that drop. See, they're opening up. And then the drop. Nice, nice. Okay, now the chords are a bit kind of over the top. They're good on the drop, I think, because they bring some real extra energy in those mid ranges. Really fills it up. But we need to create some contrast in the track, right? So for these chords, we can just automate the volume. That's absolutely fine. But make sure that you do it with a utility plugin or some kind of trim plugin, because we don't want to be automating the tracks themselves, because when we come to mixing it, it's really hard to then change all the automation that you may have done. So always do volume automation with a utility. So let's just take down this volume of the chords. I should really have called this pad, but you know what I mean. And we are also going to automate the frequency cutoff. Again, to take away some of that high-end energy. You could have that bass come in there as well. I should keep going on this a bit, shouldn't I? That sounds pretty cool. Let's do a little bit more on it. We're going to automate the bass again. It's a bit loud there. So we'll use utility. I mean, we can just do it on the group level. That's easy enough. Let's take that down. And again, it's something that could build in. Like with this melody here, this is quite prominent, so I'm going to fade this one in as well. And volume automation and filter automation. It's all about creating that movement. Just always something changing, always something developing, super important in most genres of electronic dance music, but especially in like the progressive genres like melodic house, trance, stuff like that. And then you need to do your big build-ups, but I won't do that on this level. Let's just take the energy. After a massive build-up, that would be like, yes, get in there. So, you know, you could just hold one note for that build-up actually. So let's hit this to make sure our automation doesn't get duplicated. And then we're just gonna duplicate the first note just for the build-up. You have to do it on all the chord elements, otherwise it's gonna sound weird. The melody should still be able to change. Maybe not actually. Yes, yes, I accept. Oh, yes. All right. The last thing I want to do is I'm going to use Loop Cloud to find a vocal. Now, if you want Loop Cloud, you can get a free trial. You can use my link below this video and you can sync it to Ableton, which is really cool. You know, because you can just load it up as a plugin in effect. I'm not going to do that just for brevity's sake, but it's very easy and quick to do. All I'm going to do is go vocal. I want a female vocal. So I'm going to specify that then, female vocal. Now we know this track is in G minor because we wrote it. So we can just choose G minor. We've got female vocals. Let's see. You can sort by different genre as well, but I'm just going to preview some of them. Yeah, that one will do. I think that's already on my hard drive actually, but it's in the right key. So let's just create a new channel. Drag that in. Just drag it over. G minor. And it shows the tempo of the sample as well, 105. So we can go in there, warp it, complex probe, best for vocals, and then make sure it's warped to 105. And then this is what it's going to sound like. In fact, I'm not going to warp it. I quite like the fact it could be quite nice and open. I'm going to add a whole reverb to that as well, because that sounds awesome. Too much. Calm down, love. That I'd probably actually create a specific reverb for that vocal, because you need, with vocals, you usually have to get it absolutely spot on. So you might want your own reverb for that. I'm going to check out the hybrid reverb. There's a nice little preset on this. Which one is it? I think it is Galactic Choral Hall. I like that. So let's just feed some of the vocal into that. And it is E. Oh, nice. Let's just start that sample slightly beforehand. You know, you could even loop that going up like this. I'm just going a bit crazy now, but I don't care. Deal with it. I'm getting excited, see. All right, this is what I'm going to do, and then we're going to call it a day, and you can download this track below, and you can pick it apart, use it how you want. So this is what we're going to do. This can also, it's a bit harsh actually, that sample. Let's find the resonant thing that's hurting my ears and just cut it out. It's somewhere around there. Yeah, that's it. And let's set this to oh, yes, bring it in. Oh, that turned around, didn't it? I was a bit like, at the beginning, but now I'm like, Anyway, really hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to download this project file and subscribe to this channel if you want tips and tricks on music production each and every week. Thanks for watching. And until next time, cheers and happy producing.